Okay, we're ready to begin the Town of Sangerville Board of Selectmen meeting Tuesday, May 15th. It's 5:02. And we're going to skip the Pledge of Allegiance because we're in the library. So we're going to move on to item 2, approval of the minutes, May 9th, 2018, special Selectmen's meeting.
We have the two different versions, the one that I had sent and then the amended version, so I'm not sure which version you wanted to go with.
I have not read the second one.
Okay, so
I
we
had
wanna
some
just
internet
table it?
issues. Yeah, let's just push it out.
So, do I have to make a motion to table it or no?
You can.
So I'll make a motion to table the May 9th, 2018 Selectmen's Meetings minutes.
Second.
Those in favor? It's unanimous. Item 3, review of treasurer's warrants, payroll number 64, and accounts payable 62, 63, 65, 66, and 67.
Make a motion to approve payroll 64, accounts payable 62, 63, 65, 66, 67.
Second.
Those in favor? It's unanimous. Item 4, old business, Abby Fowler, discussion with Brian Howard, and Brian is here today. Thanks for coming. So you're going to share, I guess, your vision for this.
Yeah, well, we haven't really nailed down exactly what the reuse would be of the facility. I wanted to get some certain. I would like to get some certainties before I invest the time to go into feasibilities. Right now, I think what makes the most sense is to convert the space portion at a time and lease out some office space inside the building. Obviously, the abatement's been done, but there's still a bunch of demo that would need to be done. Considerable renovations that would need to be done. The windows need to be taken care of. There's thermal issues and efficiency issues there. So I haven't really explored or discussed with an architect what we would do because up until now I didn't really have any certainty from the town whether they would transfer this for the dollar as was discussed with Dave Pearson 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I think, or whatever. So I can tell you that I'm not going to put a marijuana dispensary in there or do anything unfavorable. It would be business-related office space, and I would try to cater to build out for specific tenants. So we would put the word out there that we had space available, and then we would customize. If we could get a long-term lease from somebody, we would customize the space for them. So that's where it is right now.
Sounds like a viable.
To me, it's a different direction, but it's still potential more jobs in town. And it's not exactly what the committee was talking about, but it's close. I don't see where it's going to be loud noise and bright lights and.
No, I wouldn't. I'm not a loud noise, bright lights kind of guy. I wouldn't do anything like that, really. I wouldn't want phone calls after 5 p.m. So, office space is the plan. We ran the numbers a year and a half ago on assisted living, and based on what the grant money that was available for an assisted living facility and what we had to provide for jobs, the grant money, it didn't make sense to invest that way, and then we would have to staff it with a certain number of people, and it's just not large enough to see a return on investment there. So I canceled that idea. It's just not going to fly.
Originally, there was some thought of capital improvements that might be in excess of $1 million, but that was kind of when you were looking at the assisted living, or at least that was the perception I think I had. Do you still see capital improvements of that nature?
Yeah, I don't think there's any way around it because by virtue of the building is, I think it's around 10,000 square feet, and based on the current market for renovation projects, we bid these all the time. Renovations are going between $250 a square foot and upwards of $500 a square foot. So even if we self-perform that work and supply the manpower, the staffing, labor and materials with our discounts, there's no way I'm going to be able to invest less than $100 a square foot to get this up to snuff. The roof is not leaking right now, but it's going to need some serious work. The entire brick facade needs to be repointed. Windows alone are going to be upwards of $50,000 to $70,000. The floor would need to be demoed, pulled out. The slab is going to need to be removed. We would do radiant flooring in there, and we would run new plumbing for separate restrooms. So there's no way that anything we do for that full surface area is going to be around that value.
And as far as like a feasibility, are there people, do you feel that will come and use that office space? I mean, do we have the businesses or the...
I think the best avenue is going to be to approach the people at Mayo. We've got a relationship with Mike Kessler and Marie Vino, and I know they're expanding, and they've been picked up by, so that's my first stop is them. Secondly, we would speak with Denise Pizzelli and find out if she has any businesses that are interested in relocating and can maybe, what would bring them to this area is that I could provide a build out contract at low initial cost for them, as long as I could get a 5 or a 10-year lease agreement, and then I would make my money over the 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
So if they don't have to front 100 to 250 to renovate a building, but they get a space that is exactly the way they want it, that's a big value, and that right there is an attraction for any business, really. If they can defer that cost over a period of time, then it would make sense for them. And so I think that would give this facility an advantage over other locations around here.
Yeah, be desirable for those people to move in.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, you mentioned, you said $1 way back when you were talking to Mr. Pearson. So is that what you're envisioning? $1?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Maybe 2.
Okay. No, it's good to know.
One thought I've had, but since this thing's even going back originally, is if the town transfers this property to you, it will only take about 10 minutes before someone calls me and says, "You don't know that he's going to do anything over there. You just gave him this piece of property, and he could sell it next week," or any number of scenarios. And so I've kind of brainstormed this a little bit, like how would we protect the town's interest? How do I respond to someone with that question? And I'm open, but I can promise you that that's going to be, a concern. And I've thought of like earnest money, like I'm making up numbers, but we escrow $50,000, and we have a target for capital improvements, and when you hit that, the 50 comes back to you. But I have no idea what sort of mechanism we might do for that, but I think if we could come up with a way, it would be really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, because anything you guys do is going to be scrutinized, and I get that. For us as a contractor, our liquid assets are our business operates through bonding. We have performance and payment bonds that are called on every project that we do. Our bonding limits are based off from liquid assets. Right now, we're bonded to $17 million through Travelers Bonding Company. What I could do probably is we could set up a performance or payment bond or something with this construction contract, give it a certain term, a 5-year term, and then if the renovation or reuse is not realized within that 5-year term, then a set amount could be repaid to the town via the bonds. For us to tie up liquid assets and put it in escrow, that reduces our bonding capacity.
Sure.
It's a 10-to-1 ratio.
Oh.
So if I set aside $50,000, it actually reduces my bonding capacity by $500,000.
Whoa.
So it's not favorable for me to throw anything in escrow, but performance and payment bonds are something that could be done
Okay.
to ensure that you guys, that essentially at the end of the day, you want to put it on the tax rolls,
Correct.
Correct.
right?
Yep.
So
Exactly right.
if the building is valued at $1 million, what is the property tax going to be on that?
This year would have been 18,000.
18,000. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, it's reasonable to build into any type of contract, if the reuse is not complete within a 5-year term and it's not paying taxes based on the valuation of the property, a $50,000 sum would be paid back to the town or something like that. I'm not opposed to that.
That
because
sounds like
I
it
get
would be helpful.
I get the conundrum you're in.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Yep. And long term, if you're successful, it's a win for the town.
Right.
Jobs, everything. It would be ideal, I think.
Well, I will tell you that if I'm gonna mess, I'm extremely busy with what we do. If I'm going to do anything here, it's going to be to make money. I'm not gonna just sit on a property and let it rot and fall apart.
Right.
That's not who I am. I want, as soon as I get that, I would like it to be creating revenue for me. It doesn't make me any money just sitting there at all. So it's in my best interest to turn it back over to reuse so I can start leasing spaces. And ideally what we would do is we could get all of the demo and removals done as one larger project, but the actual build out of the spaces would be one at a time. We would customize each space and build as we go, as we get tenants. So I can't say whether that would be a year or 2 or 5. I don't know, but I could agree to a 5-year total term for at least getting it put back on the tax rolls.
These other two guests were members of our committee. Do you guys have any questions or input or?
Well, I think what Brian's talking about fell well within what we talked about. Is one of the things that it'd be beneficial to the community, and it's clean business.
Right.
And I understood you didn't care for all the covenants we wanted to place on that. I'm not surprised by that, of course. But if it's going to be a clean business, I mean, the lighting would be downlighting anyway
Right.
on the parking lot and
Yeah.
so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Some of that goes without saying, really.
And also, correct me if I'm wrong, but whatever we do decide to do with the facility, I still have to get a permit, and I have to seek planning board approval on that anyway, wouldn't I?
No.
No.
Oh, really?
No.
God loves Sangerville.
Unless you want a rooster.
Yeah, no roosters up there.
Okay.
It's a one-page form, intent to improve. and all it does is notify the tax assessor.
Mm-hmm.
But it does have some wordage on it, some things you do have to be aware of, like street, highway entrances and
Yep.
that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That you'd have to do anyway,
Right.
if it weren't on that form. It falls within the clean uses that we had wanted for the building.
What was the main concern? Was it not moving the head shop over here? Is that pretty much the main concern?
That's one of them, but a lot of, that building is ideal for a machine shop, steel manufacturer, and it would be laid out well for something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And those things require outdoor storage.
Yep. Gotcha. Which would look ugly.
Yeah,
I get it.
right behind a town hall and
Yeah.
residential area.
Mm-hmm. I understand. Yep.
Really, the big thing was you guys wanted it to be a good neighbor. I mean, you
Right.
wanted it to be something that would be in your community, and you wouldn't mind having living next door.
Right.
That's out of all the rules, that's what it really boiled down to.
Right. But we just didn't wanna annoy everybody.
Right, it's tough,
Where-
it's nestled in this neighborhood right here, and, yeah, you know, it's residential, and, you know, I don't wanna watch a forklift going back and forth in front of my, you know, my flower garden.
Right.
You know, those types of things.
Yeah.
As far as the, I don't want to move on, but as far as cosmetically outside, just in your brain, as far as a contractor, when does that happen? You know, I know you got to start generating revenue with regard to tenants, but in the grand scheme of things, when do you say, okay, now we make it look nice from the outside?
Actually, that is all a function of when my crews that are out working on projects, when they would become free.
Okay.
We've got sometimes we'll have projects where there's a 2 or 3 month gap for like our site supervisor, project manager, and then carpenters and laborers. And if there's, so this project would fill those gaps. So I can't say when exactly that would be. The brick facade on the front I would keep the same. I think that the windows, all of those are going to be wiped out and removed, and we would probably do a curtain wall situation to allow a lot of natural light in with some low E glass. And that would probably be the biggest change in the building would be the glass on the side. But that would happen. That would have to happen early on in the process, and that's one of those where I mentioned that would be the entire building because financially it makes sense to have Oaks and Parkhurst mobilize in once, get the whole building done as far as the glass is concerned.
Right.
So it wouldn't be a phased construction. The phased construction would be inside the building, so no one would see that anyway. So it wouldn't be like left with Typar on it for
Right. Yeah, there you go. Well, and I can see that, you know, you have to do all the windows before you do any of the renovations on the inside, because
That's right.
then you're not going to be coming back to an office space and saying, now we're going to put, yeah.
You need a weather tight
Yeah,
envelope
yeah.
first and foremost. Once you achieve that, then you can start working on the inside.
Right.
So
And I mean, I know it perhaps is premature, but just, let's say we say, okay, yep, it's a go. I mean, do you have any windows coming up that, okay, you're going to hit the ground running? Or, and I know you said it's got to be start generating income as fast as it can.
we
but-
might work on some of the demo. I could probably do some of the interior demo right off. I've got a site super that's finishing up on the Derby project, and he has a couple of months free, and we would probably eliminate all of the items inside the building that we weren't going to reuse. So we would work on that first, getting all of that cleaned out. So that would be very soon for that item. As far as the rebuild, likely a lot of that work unfortunately would be done during the wintertime because that's our slow season.
Nice.
Yes, yes.
I think one of our major issues was, what if we let him buy it for $1 and then he turns around and sells it to somebody else who wants to do a pot dispensary, or who wants, you know, who comes in and does something that we don't want. That was one
Yeah.
of the major concerns. And then the other thing, I just have a question. Wouldn't it be easier to knock the thing down? Sounds like you're going to
Easier.
renovate everything.
Well, structurally the building is actually
Coming
structurally
down.
it's fine.
Yeah, well,
Structurally,
yeah.
it's the truss system is all good. The tectum on top of the trusses are that's decent. The masonry, the CMU units, and the brick, those are for the
Just
most
the
part
facade
structurally
behind it,
sound.
yeah.
It's just it's the energy efficiency is terrible,
yeah.
and
You can't leave the flat roof, and
well.
you could, but
I would intend to leave the flat roof,
Really?
but there's some other things that could be done. We can spray foam underneath the tectum, inside the full, underneath the entire roof. The flat roof would work well for us because we would end up doing cooling with heat pumps. So we would mount the heat pumps onto the top of the roof so that we don't have them on the side of the building.
Yeah.
I'm not for that. So. But structurally, it's actually pretty sound. It's
Okay.
not in bad shape. The slab The slab isn't terrible. The ground around it is fine. So I don't think wiping it out is the way to go personally.
That's why I'm asking you. I mean, I have zero construction experience or information. I just look at that and go, maybe it's just easier to start over.
Yeah, and sometimes, until I get an architect out there to look at it and come up with some ideas and then run the numbers on what the cost is, I can't say for sure.
So you haven't brought anybody of that?
Nope. We only had discussions with. Oh, this was years ago. I forget the name. It wasn't WBRC. CES. Yep. CES did a preliminary reuse plan on the building, and it never went any further than that. Yeah. But that was 4 years ago, I think.
Was that somebody you brought in, or did that happen?
They did.
independent?
Who was in here after Dave?
Ken.
Ken facilitated. I had some talks
Oh,
with
okay.
CES, and CES
I
did
see.
the redesign and redevelopment plan for us. And that was the actual plan that we used for you folks to be able to seek brownfields money to clean it up. So we had legwork in there to be able to get it cleaned up, with the understanding that, okay, we'll get it cleaned up and then we'll transfer it to me.
Okay. Yep. So there's
Yeah.
some history there.
There is, yep.
That's good to know.
I think it would be really helpful if you could kind of package that proposal, the performance
Okay.
bond approach, the 60 months, a threshold, and how that would be tracked, so that we could understand that. And I think that's going to be the key to us being able to consider advancing this. Because even the idea of you selling it to someone else, that performance bond is still going to be at stake. So it's not an easy. It's not an easy thing to just ignore.
Right.
So I think that's the key to that. If you can kind of help us understand what that's going to look like,
Okay.
then
Yeah.
I think we could
Move ahead.
move ahead.
All right.
Well, and that's my piece too, is, I mean, by the sounds of it, the investment you're gonna put in this building, let's say in 10 years you do wanna sell it.
Oh, I'm gonna sell it.
But I'm just,
Yeah.
the investment that's gonna be in the building,
Right.
you're not gonna sell that to a pot dispensary.
No.
But
They
I mean,
don't-
it's not gonna happen.
No.
And I think that alone
Yeah,
is.
we don't care if he sells it after he's got it
Correct.
done. We just
Right.
No,
Yeah.
and it's for the town. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
they literally will, for decades to come, will tax that building. That's the whole idea.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
it's a great concept. We just got to get our ducks in a row.
So we'll draft up. Would you like a full purchase and sale agreement with the specifics of what we discussed?
Yep.
Essentially, so that you have something tangible, and then if you're all in agreement, that's the document by which
Correct.
it
I think that's the
transfers.
easiest, rather than us, because we really, you know how these things work, and you know what you can and can't do. You know what you're going to do.
Yeah.
So you present it to us. We'll, if we feel like we need legal to look at it, we will, and we'll respond.
Okay.
I think does that make sense? So yeah, to look forward to it.
Okay. I'm not going to turn it into anything terrible.
I'm
No, I
sure you
mean-
won't.
You're
I mean, the stripper ordinance started with me, so I mean, obviously.
Well,
I remember that.
I think no, it sounds exciting.
Okay.
Yeah. It does, and I mean, you live in this community, and I mean, your family lives here, and
Yes.
you know why why would you make it anything but successful and something that's pleasing and something that you can be proud of?
And at the end of the day, Jody, we have right now our offices are above our upper shop that we have, and we're outgrowing that, and likely we would move the offices down here. So
that'd
I'm
be
not
great.
going to have riffraff in
Sure.
the building where we work. So,
Sure, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Close to home,
Right.
very, very, very good. Well, it sounds great. I just have a question as far as the bond. Are those bonds that then go out on, would you understand how that works as far as like, buying bonds? I mean, we buy bonds all the time.
So when you buy bonds, actually what you're buying, if you buy bonds for an
Oh,
investment,
For an investment.
you're essentially buying. It's not a guarantee, but it's as close to a guarantee as you can get in the investing world. Essentially,
Right.
bonds are very safe.
Right.
So when you're buying bonds, you're buying like Maine DOT will put out a bond referendum to approve this, and you're buying into that residual income. A bonding company works. Our bonding company works off from a percentage of contract value. So if we are, say we bid a project that's $1 million and they require performance and payment bonds, we have to upfront pay 1.7% of the total contract value to the bonding company. They store that money and keep that money in, and if the project is completed and it's done per the contract documents, they keep the money. Nothing happens. We move on. If for some reason the contractor doesn't do what he's supposed to do, if he walks away or fails at the agreement, then the bonding company uses all the money they have in assets to complete the project per the original terms of the agreement. So the bonding company, they have a risk. There's a liability there that if a contractor rolls over on them, they have to pick up and finish that job.
Sure.
So that's how performance and payment bonds work. Performance bond means they will perform the work, and a payment bond means that they will pay any subcontractors or any vendors that weren't paid in full by that contractor.
And then you get dinged on a percentage the next time you go look for bonds.
If I ever had a project that where they pulled the bond on, we would never be bonded ever again.
Oh, okay.
So
it's a
Oh yeah.
It's a one-shot deal.
it's a okay.
You said you're 10-1 on assets?
It's a 10-1, right? What we have as far as liquid is what they allow us in
Okay.
capacity.
So, I mean, my interpretation of that is the insurance company sees you as fairly low risk. They're giving you a lot of leverage.
Right. We have to have audited financials every year, and then we have they've got everything we have in collateral, and we have with the my assets are just under $5 million. We have zero debt. We don't run with any debt, so everything I have is paid for. So they have essentially all my assets wrapped up and available should they need to call the bond and pay for anything. So I do have a huge amount of stake. Everything I have up on
Sure.
North Exeter Road is tied up in bonding.
Yeah.
Right.
So-
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, no, that is very interesting. And that, I mean, even further is a guarantee that, you're working to
You're not
gonna
stay
blow this bond up.
successful.
Yeah, it would be much easier to pay $50,000 than to have a bond called.
Yes. Yeah.
But by putting $50,000 in escrow, that reduces my
Sure. Your
my
assets.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yep. No, that makes sense. That's very interesting. And that's a win-win for us also.
Yeah, it sounds like a good strategy.
okay.
Yeah.
So, thanks a lot for making time for us.
Yes.
No problem. I'll leave that there.
Great.
Reach out to Lois when you're ready.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brian.
Okay. Take care.
Good to see you again.
See ya. Bye.
All right. That was interesting.
Question?
Yes.
Yep.
Do you want the Abbey Fellow Board committee to meet or not?
What's that?
Do they want us to do anything with this information, or
You can. You certainly can. Or you might want to wait until we get his proposal.
I'm just asking what you
No, it's
are looking for.
no. Maybe it would be good to let the members know what you heard today.
I mean, I could just send out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think we need a
Notes.
meeting for that.
Yeah.
This
Or-
select board.
Actually, I'll probably send them to you,
What's that?
Lois, and
Yeah.
several of them will have to come collect them.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm not sure what you're referring to.
The other inquiry.
Oh no,
We did have a second inquiry, and
Well, that's why I want to make sure that these guys knew this.
yes,
Okay.
I didn't want to really,
Yeah. It's
nothing against Brian, he's very positive and everybody, we're all in agreement of what he's wanted to do, so I didn't want him to get the, double-edged sword conversation, but I do want to make sure that everybody's aware.
Yes.
Just the rest of the committee just needs to know that we did meet at the request of the select board with Brian and the reason for that
Yeah.
and what we talked about. Then it would, after we get the proposal, it'd be good if Brady and I came and then she could follow through on it. We'd schedule a meeting.
Yep. Well, we had another person reach out to Lois that had some interest.
Yeah, his name's Jeremiah Pitts, and he does manufacturing, light manufacturing. I think
I went on. I have no idea.
I know
who to
he's
get.
close by. He had talked about the Fay Scott building in Dexter. I met with him on a Saturday. He came in.
Garland, maybe.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Who is
Yeah.
it?
Jeremiah Pitts.
Facebook.
Oh, he took over the metals program in tech for a few months last year when their instructor was out on leave. So he fabrication
Yeah,
metals workers.
It's a machine shop.
it's a machine shop.
Yeah.
And he's expanding, and I think he's just said he just recently built on to his current location, but he foresees more expansion in his future. But he did say, I met with him on a Saturday, he came and looked at the building, that the building is more than he would need for his singular, and so he was looking at the same, office space for the other parts of the building that he didn't need. And the fabrication, I specifically asked him about noise. And he said, mostly it's a low hum if you're outside. And I said, well, how is that going to sound for the office space that you're renting inside? Because you're on a concrete slab. And I know if you, bounce a ping pong ball, you can hear it end to end. And he talked about that a little bit. I did ask him to send a proposal via email and what he would expect to pay for the building and growth and development and, updating the building, making it usable, and he has not gone back to me yet. So
I'm guessing he doesn't have the capital to.
No, in fact, he said it was bigger than he doesn't even need the whole thing. So
Right.
it would be a little different approach.
And we should follow through with Mr. Howard first. He's been in on it right from the start. with us.
Right, and I think that the point that with the EMS or ESM or ESC, whatever that company, that the fact that they did put some legwork in several years ago, that's of note.
Yeah.
I've known Brian since he was a little boy. But just sort of watching him grow up, I haven't seen him forever, but everything that he's put his hand to as a young contractor and coming up in this world has really been really well done. And he's very community oriented, extremely community oriented. I know I was at the Y down in Dover, and they did the entire refurbishing of the Y down there, and donated a lot of materials and time and all that sort of stuff for the Y down there. So I like that. And he's young and he's going to be here for a while.
I'm not surprised that they couldn't make the assisted living work. I looked at that and looked at how the heck is he ever going to make money on that? That makes
Yeah, anything with staffing and all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff, and 24/7, and that's such a tough business.
Well, I'm anxious to see
Yeah.
the whole. I'm glad he was open to that.
Oh yeah.
He realized the need for some sort of a skin in the game.
Yep.
So.
And it's it's the real deal. Skin
Yep.
in the game.
Yep.
Well, I mean, it's like even with the committee when we was talking about being a neighborhood business, Brian's fits, and you actually said that when we was talking about that, how we don't want a machine shop or something like that in there. And at the time, you guys didn't know that was the So I mean, that's kind of this. They don't want that. So
Right.
I would much rather keep going in the direction we're going in, and
that fits well within the parameters of what we talked about as a committee. It's low impact, and I think it would be a viable business.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting. Would you rather have a plan like he's mapped out with, and like I said, he has some skin in the game, or somebody who you don't really know at all who writes your check for 50 grand? I would rather have the known, and so
Well, at $1 million investment at $18,000 a year, it doesn't take you very long to hit your $50,000.
no, it does not. The whole
No.
key to this is somebody finishes that thing.
Right.
That's
Right.
right. That's right.
Yep,
Yeah,
and
but
he's going to want to finish it.
if
Yeah.
it became to full value, though, it sounded like he'd be a couple of years getting it up to
Yep.
the full taxation
Right.
value of,
Right.
but certainly a step in the right direction.
Oh yeah.
If he gets halfway there, it still works.
And moving his his corporate offices or whatever you want
Yeah,
to call
that's-
it there. I mean that's big. I mean I was down in New York 2 weekends ago. His machinery is all the way down on the New Hampshire border.
He just put a sign up on 23 today.
Is that right?
Yeah, that entrance, it has
Says
going
deliveries.
in deliveries.
Yeah.
So,
So I mean I think it's just growing, and he's only 33 years old. So that's huge as far as longevity of 33, 34, because he's exactly my son's age, because they were friends growing up. So that's
When the proposal comes back, we could examine it with you guys and with the committee if it's what
Yep.
we need to. Because there may be a few issues, but I think it's gonna be something we'd be able to work through with him. It's given what he wants to do with it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of those covenants, we weren't worried about him per se, but, what the next person might decide. But if you've got it all set up and ready to go, that's not gonna be.
Yeah, and the reality is, we have that risk with every single piece of property in this town.
Yeah.
There isn't anybody here that can't sell their
But you
property.
aren't selling a piece of property to anybody else for $1 for,
Well, that's-
when it
that's-
does-
That's the
you
next
can
on
sell
the
your
agenda.
property for $1 to anybody you want, and
Correct,
that's the risk.
but-
The risk is always.
yeah. But
But-
this is not for $1. This is for a promise of capital
it.
improvement.
It really is.
And not only that, I mean, next on the agenda, when we
Yep.
sell foreclosed property, we don't put a covenant on that. You don't put any restrictions, we just sell it.
Yeah.
So why should that's the other piece to this,
Oh,
is
don't get me going on that.
I just put it's,
Yeah.
It's the
we're not in
reality.
the real estate business,
Right. Right.
and that's what we need to,
Well, he was kind of shocked. All he needs to do is tell you what, I'm gonna do something. There's no,
Yeah. all-
There's no
all they
zoning,
need
there's
to do is
no
sit down
anything.
with us.
Yeah.
Right.
so
Yeah.
and that's the way it is for every single piece of property in this town. Unless you wanna have a rooster, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure there are a few others, but.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, something about the monument, you gotta be a certain distance from the
From the
monument if you're gonna have
monument.
1 mile.
1
Yeah.
mile, yeah.
Radius.
Yeah.
To do what?
Have a chicken.
That chicken.
A
No,
turkey.
you
That
can have
rooster.
chickens,
Not a
you can't
turkey.
have
Within a
roosters.
mile of the monument.
Thank
That's
you guys.
right.
Half of them, I think it's half a mile.
No, it's 1 mile.
Is it a mile? No.
Oh my
And
god.
the worst part of it is there's like,
And you
going
can't
up
sell
towards their
eggs
house,
either.
there's a nice, what's that, 15, 20 acre lot up on top that used to be all farmland, and they can't have any animals.
I don't think it's a mile.
You would
Is
have
it?
to
half
Is
a
it
mile?
half a mile?
I think it's 900 feet.
Oh, well, see, we don't.
say-
None of us
We
know.
haven't had a lot of enforcement, have we?
Half a mile.
The ball diamond is just the line, because the ball diamond
Yeah.
fits. That,
Yeah.
that's
See, I can
half
have-
a mile.
My
Yeah.
neighbors all have roosters.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
On to item B, foreclosed property.
So we still have that piece that was Michael Warford. I called Sharon Mountain, and she said what they use when they get ready to value a piece of property is they base it where this doesn't have buildings on it. It's woodland, 1,000 to 1,500 for each acre that is wooded and marketable timber. If it's swampland, $500 to $600 an acre is what they value it at. We know this is 12.8 acres, and it is on the Goff Road. I did find it, and there's a driveway with a big tree that's down, but you can see the camper from the road. I did not go into the camper.
Good call.
The tree was really big. I was going to, but I
It's
looked
a-
at the
it's
tree
a
and
big
it's like,
spruce.
I'm not climbing over that tree because I get dirty. So I was in dress clothes.
It looks like a pretty low-lying, kind of wet.
It's swampy.
It's nothing really spectacular.
So where are we at as far as, so we got 3 years worth of tax value, we've got the fees for certified letters and all
Yeah,
that. So what's our total investment in the
I
property?
didn't print that off. I can go grab it.
We need to know our all-in.
Yes, and so what you need to think about is, do you want Sharon to list it? She said she could, if we wanted her to, but you're gonna pay somebody, so how much value? Or, we can simply advertise and sell on your own, but do you want a minimum bid on it? And I'll go print that off.
Okay.
For that
Do you have a copy of our ordinance? We have something already about foreclosed property, right?
We do, and I,
I couldn't remember the
quite a
verbiage.
while ago,
I know,
think we had it,
see
right?
if I can.
I'll see if
What, oh, okay, so we're just,
My thought is to put it in the paper and
just,
figure out a number and minimum bid it and run it.
If that's what we can do and get rid of it, I am perfectly happy with that.
So I don't know what.
I don't remember what if I can get there.
I mean, if it were a home, and maybe we listing would make sense, but
Well, to me, this is no different than the Abbey Fowler. Our goal isn't to make money. Our goal is to get it back on the tax, to
Yeah.
generate that taxable income.
such as it is, I can't imagine as much.
yeah, not gonna, that one's not gonna, but 12.8 acres, that's, so, I mean, that's,
And I think that the personal property, I think that goes with it.
oh, really?
I think the trailer is ours. Lois
Oh.
will know, but I think it
Oh, and trailer.
is. And I don't think we want to touch it.
No, no.
So
just
it's an as is,
goes
where
as
is.
Yep, yep,
If
yep.
there's a bucket of gold bars in there, you win. If there's
Yep.
something else, you lose.
Yep.
Oh, so this isn't bad. It's one page.
What? What is?
The ordinance?
Policy on tax acquired property. The property owner mortgage holder has the right to pay off all the taxes, but the foreclosure, we already passed that.
Yeah.
After automatic lien foreclosure for non-payment of taxes, the following procedure will take place. The treasurer shall prepare a list of property acquired and forward a copy to the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen have the final responsibility for the management of tax acquired property and may choose to either retain the property for town purposes, retain the property for lease, or sell the property, or donate the property to an appropriate non-profit organization whose mission benefits Sangerville's townspeople. The town shall advertise the property for sale by a sealed bid in a paper having general circulation in the area. The advertisement shall briefly describe the property, specify the time and date bids are due, and the general terms of the sale, including the minimum bid required. Unless the board stipulates otherwise, the minimum bid of any tax acquired property shall be the total of all outstanding taxes, liens, and interest costs, and sealed bids will require a 10% down payment and a cashier's check or certified. So basically, this is already saying what
So
we're gonna do.
it says.
Pretty much
yeah,
maps it out,
yeah,
doesn't
Yep, we're gonna
Yep.
sell it, we're gonna advertise it, minimum bid is what we've got invested. Can't really deviate.
No, well, it sounds like you could, for example, if they only owed $1,400
He just
on
read
100
this to
acres,
us.
you wouldn't have to ask just $1,400. You could ask for more.
That'd be your minimum bid.
Minimum bid.
That is your specified
That's what it
minimum.
said. Well, that's how it says you come up with it. Where is that? What was that under D?
No, I didn't get that far. It's in
Oh,
A or B.
Unless the board stipulates otherwise,
Ah.
the minimum bid for any, so the board can stipulate
You can
otherwise.
increase.
Correct. Or you could go down.
Correct.
I mean, if the property were so underwater that you had to lose a little to get it back on the books. So we do have the authority to wiggle here.
And I see it does say, it does not include, which I think it should, when we foreclose on a property, it gets added to our general liability policy.
Oh.
So I can find out how much that is
gonna cost.
specifically for that parcel.
Does it address, personal property on the lot anywhere here?
It is,
I don't see any verbiage.
I wouldn't say anything specifically as personal property, but what I will say is when there's a camper on a piece of property, it's not taxed as personal property. If it's registered, and then that's personal property. But when they don't register a camper, it goes on as real estate on their account. So you'll see on this
that
tax
camper-
account, it says building 2180. That's what they're
Ah.
valuing that
That's the
camper.
That's that camper.
So it
What
is-
about the contents?
It's personal property, but there's no value as
there's
far
no
as we know.
value.
We don't have any idea what's in there.
Nope.
Nor do we, the question is, do we wanna know?
I don't.
I don't.
Well, I guess I'm wondering, is it incumbent upon us to open that door, or is it better for us not to open the door?
You can have your wording in your ad that says town's not responsible.
Right.
I know in Garland they sold a piece of property that actually had tenants squatting.
Yeah, I knew, the
They were just
workshop,
squatters. They
the
weren't-
workshop told us about that.
Yeah, it's like,
So-
Don't even get involved with it,
Don't- yeah,
just sell it as
just Sell it
is.
as is. And,
Yep.
and I mean, your wording would say,
Yep.
you know, this problem becomes the problem of
Right.
the owner, the winning bidder, or
right.
whatever that is.
So based on that, I guess we might wanna check with MMA. I'm just, if he's got, or whoever, if there's personal property in there, you know, pictures of my grandma, or a wallet, I mean, are we responsible for anything, or is it all considered abandoned?
And or if it's toxic chemical or something like that, is there any?
Yeah, that's why I
liability?
don't wanna
Yeah,
look in there,
that we
but.
don't wanna-
At the
Yeah,
same time, you wanna
right.
look in there.
But as is, if I'm the guy who's gonna buy it, I'm gonna wanna go in. Which, if that's the case, maybe we should go in.
Correct.
So, we looking for a little direction from MMA on that.
Okay.
They usually have some very succinct strategy, like, you definitely don't wanna do this, but we'll see.
Because I can see both sides of that, where it could be very beneficial if you did go in, but I could see where it may be beneficial
Could
if
bite
you
you
didn't.
if you knew.
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But with that aside, which we can get answered, I think,
Quickly.
so our all-in costs are almost $1,500.
Yeah.
Plus whatever that
Plus-
insurance or you're talking.
Right. Anything that comes up.
On the liability.
And keep in mind, this 2017 is just getting ready to go to lien. So this cost here is going to increase by even that much more.
So is this principal amount, is that the tax value?
Yes.
Okay, so this doesn't have does this actually have all the filing fees, and that's what all the costs are? That's be all your certified letters and, okay.
Certified
I never
letters,
seen this,
liens,
that's why
Yep.
so I understand.
That's what costs are? That's this?
Cost, yeah, that's your
Filing
certified
fees.
letters, your, the $19 when you register, or at the registry of deeds, and the $19 when you discharge it, all of that.
Okay.
Okay.
So, do you got a number in your head?
No, I don't, honestly, my own personal thing is that number plus whatever she says the insurance cost is. That's all I care about.
For minimum.
I was thinking $2,500.
It is 12.8 acres.
I
and
know,
what
that's
you
I-
see from
I
the
was-
$200 an acre?
Yeah,
is
yeah.
only a couple of acres, so you don't know what's on the other side of it. I mean,
And is there
I'm
wood
fine
on,
either way. I
is there wood on it? I mean,
It's a
just-
spruce grove, and it
Oh.
looks wet, but I didn't, I'm looking at an acre. It doesn't look like it gets any better out back there, but again,
12.88 acres. I mean, yeah, I mean, I was
for
thinking
$2,500, that's a pretty good deal.
that's a deal.
Yeah.
You can advertise it with a minimum for the 500 an acre if you wanted to. I mean, what's the,
We can do whatever we want. Now, the question, do you guys wanna go look at it? I drove by it. I wasn't very impressed, but I didn't
no,
walk it.
no, I'm not gonna walk it.
But honestly, I don't think I'll be putting a bid in at 2,500. That's how unimpressed I was with it.
Wow.
Correct.
Wow.
So,
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Just looked like a lot of work to me.
Yeah.
And it's wet, swampy.
Yep. No sun ever gets in there.
Yeah.
It was kind of a.
I mean, I think you're really looking for somebody that's gonna buy that, and they're probably gonna pull that camper out, and they might put another one or a hunting camp in there. And
Well, it'd make a
Is there a
really inexpensive
clearing?
house lot. It's
I
got a
think
decent
it's-
driveway.
It does.
yeah, it's
Yep.
got a driveway, and I think where the camper is enough area that's cleared that you could park there.
There's no well, there's no septic.
Oh, that's my next question.
No.
No electricity.
But
believe
it would be a very inexpensive lot to put on a trailer or a modular home,
Right.
and wouldn't that be great for us?
Yeah. Now here's the other question. Have we looked at it on Google Maps to see the trees on it? I
The
don't
best
know.
way
You just don't think.
cruise it. If you
Oh,
go,
oh.
Yeah.
it looks like an old spruce grove.
Oh. Okay. All right. Yeah. No. That sounds. I mean, I think.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
I
2,500.
want to get rid of it.
You wanna
Yeah,
do
yeah.
the
Yeah.
2,500 minimum bid.
Sure.
Yep.
So, well, is that, when we do that, who pays? So if we sell
Oh,
that
we can add those costs too.
$2,500 minimum
For
bid, and they
advertising.
pay for closing.
Oh.
They pay everything.
No,
Is
they
it a-
have to pay everything anyway.
If you don't stipulate it, they don't have to.
Well, that's how we're.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, the way, because they still have to pay the transfer tax. So they're 2.2% of the total buyer. You either suck it up as a town and say, we're just going to pay it when we pay it.
That's
or you
right.
add that little bit in there
You
that,
just word it as minimum bid is $2,500, and the buyer pays all transfer fees. And then you're going to see $2,500 clear. And
Minimum.
Correct. Then you don't get into all that.
So we are going to advertise it.
Yeah, I noticed that Dexter, every town this time of year has a bunch of them.
yeah,
And they're just a little
Oh,
tiny
yes,
minimum
yep,
bid,
Yep.
described a lot.
map and lot,
Map
and lot, yeah.
location.
Yep.
But it will get some attention with it, 12 acres.
Yeah.
Because normally they're like 1.2
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
0.8 or.
Yeah.
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 Well, if you advertise it 2 or 3 weeks, we don't get anywhere. That's when you call the real.
Oh, well, that's another thing that you're going to have to put, when do you
Oh,
want to
yeah.
do?
Oh.
Oh, well, the other thing is they got to pay we got to add in the advertising costs to this.
Right.
Well, we're already above anyway.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, you
Right,
got
but when do we
1,500,
want-
you got 1,000 extra.
Yep, yep.
When do we
health
want to
insurance.
do? How much? When do we want to do? the
I would say
bids?
once you've got an answer on the personal property and whether we should or shouldn't go in, and if a potential buyer wants to go in, should we let them in? All those variables. Because I don't. Would you buy a trailer that you can't even look at the contents and you're financially responsible for it? I don't know that I would. Maybe you just take a chance at $2,500, but
If I wanted, if it was on the property, it all depends on how you. You're buying it for the property. You're not buying it for the
Right.
And anybody that drives by and they decide they want to walk into that little camper,
They
they're going
can
to
do it.
well,
They're
you
gonna
might
do
be
it.
surprised
I'm sure
though.
there's already been people.
If the
in.
value
Yeah,
of
I'm
that
sure.
camper is even close, the $2,500
Is the camper?
is the camper.
Is it like a tag-along camper? What kind of
Yeah.
camper is it?
Yeah, it's
It's not
It's
very
like-
big, but it's a tag along.
but it's pretty.
Probably
It's
a
not that
really-
long.
Yeah, it's not. It's 25. I bet if it was cleaned up, I bet you would not find one of that same year for about that money for sale.
That's probably the gem. Is you probably could get your money back if that camper is intact.
He's talking himself into putting a bid in.
Doesn't it say here in the ordinance you can't?
Yeah, right.
No, I think anybody can bid.
Anybody can bid.
All right, so
You have
once
the
we
right to reject.
Reject
So.
and
Yeah.
any and all bids. I just read that too.
Right.
And not necessarily the highest, waive requirements.
There again, we're trying to get
Right.
it back on the tax roll.
Right.
2,500 is.
Reserves the right to waive requirements. That's good to know. I know in another town, whoever it was did not submit a cashier's check, but they submitted cash. And they rejected it because it wasn't a cashier's check. But it was the highest bid.
Okay.
they didn't want cash. We
So-
take cash, don't we?
Yeah, especially if it says, and
Yeah,
it says
we
you
waive
have
the
the
right
right to
to raise-
waive
I'm a cash fan.
requirements.
Right.
So I just kind of want to point that out there
That's-
before we get started. So
All right.
Good. Very good. That's great.
I bet we get some interest. We'll see.
Hope so.
All right. On to item 5, new business appointment.
Cynthia Hall does want to be part of the appeals board,
Oh,
Okay.
very nice.
and I believe it was a 3-year. I don't have that. I printed it off, and then I had to clean everything for the vacuums, the carpets to be washed, and it's in a box.
Need to make a motion.
So, but you make
for-
motion, yeah.
Put Cynthia Hall Appointment on the appeals board for a 3-year term.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Item B, school board budget warrant. We signed that.
You did. I just need a motion.
Make a motion to
Approve the election.
approve the election of,
It's the validation referendum question for the school board budget.
okay.
You're just approving the warrant, sorry. Really.
Right.
Okay, so make a motion to approve the warrant for the validation of the referendum of the district, school board district budget.
Second.
Those in favor? 3-0.
That was really
C,
stressful.
July
meeting schedule.
I have looked ahead. July 4th is a Wednesday. That is the first Wednesday in July. So do you want to go first and second and fourth? You want to call it just the third? Do you want to go Tuesday? I mean, it's something we don't have to make a decision. You can look at.
Okay.
But just be aware that July 4th is the first Wednesday. in
So we won't
July.
be doing that.
No.
Right.
4th is out. Okay. D, mutual aid, fire department.
Tom Goulet stopped into my office last week. He was bringing me some Sangerville 200 birthday stuff. And so I had him come into the office briefly to start the conversation on the fire department. And he is open to having a conversation of what it would be to combine the two departments, Sangerville and Guilford. He did mention the newest piece of equipment, the new truck, the Rosenbauer. They would take that, and then we could sell all the other equipment or whatever we want to do with it. Depending, you have to think about, do you want to keep this fire station open, even though they would be manning it with their members? Do you want to close this station? And he said the cost is going to depend on like the number of calls that we have.
I want to know what he's thinking.
Does he know the number of calls that we've
I
had?
showed him when he was there, but then he got an emergency call and he had to leave, so we didn't finish
Because if
the
they're mutual aid,
conversation.
they would know a lot of calls, wouldn't they? That's not how that
no.
works. No.
No, and that's what you have to do with our calls. What you have to do is, you have to look at all the calls that Sangerville has, and then you have to take out all the mutual aid calls.
Oh, okay.
Because chances are they're in the same mutual aid, so
Right.
those calls don't count. Because they
So
would
if we
already be
went
doing
to
it.
help Dexter, that's not one of our calls.
That's
or
right,
his
correct.
point of view.
It shouldn't be, because that's part of mutual aid.
Right.
Another issue that was brought up to me about the fire department and just this conversation is the insurance, our insurance as residents of Sangerville, because it's based on how close your fire department is, and so that does impact. If they did keep a satellite here, perhaps it wouldn't impact all of our insurance.
Where's the station in
Their
Guilford?
station's under a mile away.
I say it's not going to change much.
Oh, I know, but I mean, it might put you over the threshold of, these are
I don't
just
know either.
all
I'm just
right,
But in one way, I think if this actually
right,
looks like it could happen,
right.
that aspect of it, the impact's going to be pretty minimal. There aren't too many towns center. Our fire department is about as close to anybody to them as you could be.
Right. So we're not talking Dexter.
Right. If we flip to
right,
Dexter, all of
yeah.
a sudden I would have coverage, whereas now I'm too far away.
Sure.
well, and you'd be more beneficial than a Parkman or Abbott that's already utilizing the Guilford.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, I mean they really are close together. That's why this is making sense.
well, and I've always heard that, and it's no difference. I've always heard this about the hydrants, that we have to have all these hydrants because it makes everybody's property insurance lower. But nobody has yet proved that. I've never heard anything other than the rumor that this all helps. Nobody's ever said that, yes, if your department is within so many feet, that these residents get a certain discount. Or
Right.
if your hydrants are so many per population, you get a discount. I've never had that. I've asked. I've never seen it.
Right.
I could ask Tom because in his previous job experience, he was an insurance person.
Oh,
Correct.
yeah.
I wouldn't ask
that-
Tom because that was years ago. I would ask somebody that's doing it now.
I mean, I could see hydrants being beneficial to the people that live
By a hydrant.
by a hydrant, but you know they're not using
What's
a
my
hydrant.
benefit?
No, none, zero.
I mean,
Absolutely zero.
and at the same token, when you look it up, this is why this always comes up every year budget because
Right.
that hydrant tax is huge.
Yes.
Yes.
And everybody
Yes.
says you got to pay it. Well, why do we got to pay it? Why do we need them?
It's not gonna affect your insurance if we don't have those hydrants.
I can't
No.
believe it.
No. 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 No.
But it might affect the insurance,
Of the people who.
Kimball's.
Right. Right.
Maybe.
Yes.
But that's kind of off
Yeah.
track.
No. I know.
No, but I think it's all
know,
part
sorry.
of it because it's all part of
Yeah,
the
the
entire
conversations
conversation.
that people might have or
Because these are all
arguments.
more
arguments.
If you ever accelerate this down the road, when you get into the work,
You want to be
you're
prepared.
gonna want all these answers.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the only reason why I brought it up.
Yeah, and it will come up.
Yep.
But I do think, in a way, we've got an idea. The
Right.
geography is about as good as it could get.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
I don't think
I'd
you're
really
gonna
be
get
interested. How do you guys see this advancing? Is it a conversation with the board and Tom? Is it a conversation with their board and our board? Is it between the two town managers? How does this get some traction?
Let me talk to Tom and see, because he said the same thing. Who do we want
Yeah.
to talk to? And so I think we need to talk to figure out who we want to talk to and who wants to talk. Because I don't know how difficult it would be or how acceptable it is. I mean, if they call a board meeting and you are present at their board meeting.
Right.
Now
It
we
gets
have
all
it-
kinds of thorny
Oh,
things.
sure.
Yes.
I think.
Why can't you have? All right, so why can't you both schedule a board meeting for the same time?
I
Same
think we
place?
can, but we just have to specify location.
Sure.
But I think, long before we get to that, we're going to want to have a real feel for whether this is viable or not.
Yes.
And we got to know what he's thinking.
Well, because I don't really. I mean, there's one thing when you say the word combined, that means you're going to have one organized fire department between two towns. So does that mean two towns are going to budgetary staffing? Is it going to be controlled by two towns, or would it be okay? So that's not combining.
Right.
I agree with you. It's not a regional
Correct.
fire department.
Correct.
He will take
so we
over
need to-
some of our equipment and our
Okay, so we need to stop using the word combined.
combined.
Right.
Yes.
So that's not what he's thinking.
Right. No, we would pay him.
He is thinking that we're going to abolish our fire department, and he's going to provide a service to us.
Correct. For a fee. Contract. We will
Correct.
contract.
Which they
the
already
fire-
do
Which is
for,
they
like,
already do
Parkman.
for Parkman, and
Okay.
they do it for Abbott.
Yes.
I would be very interested to know what those towns
fees
pay.
were. And did Abbott and Parkman ever have their own fire departments? Historically?
Maybe a super long time ago, but nothing
Okay.
that I can ever remember.
Okay.
I mean, I have.
Okay.
Funny, Blanchard has they have a building that says fire department. I don't know if there's anything in it.
Yeah, same as Wellington. I mean, a lot of them further up towns did,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, right.
Parkman and Abbott is in the same.
So when you were a firefighter, that they were Guilford was providing their
Yeah.
their services.
Because actually, Abbott, C, and Parkman is the same deal because it's mutual aid. So they contract with Guilford, but the other part of Parkman, you get to come in out of Dexter under the mutual aid contract.
Uh-huh.
And the other part of Parkman, you've got Cambridge that can come in.
And what about Sangerville?
If it, well, yeah,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
there as well. So I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah.
with mutual aid,
Wedged right in the
you're kind of, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the other thing about with us with mutual aid.
yeah.
It
Yeah.
really, if we contracted with a Guilford or a Dover, or even a Dexter with a mutual aid contract, you're still going to have those three
All
departments.
three towns are going to converge right
Correct.
in. Yep.
Right.
Now, with the mutual aid contract, is it a formal contract? I mean, between the fire departments or the towns?
I think it's through the county.
Yeah, I think.
But Dexter is, and they,
And that's
they
where
belong under
Dexter-
our county. Yep.
They sign out of Dexter's into.
Corinna does too, because Corinna came into Dexter the other day when I was.
Yes, every county, Corinna, Dexter. I mean, every department within their county is all part of that.
Yep.
And then the towns that are close, that town will sign in. Because I mean, Dexter goes to Dover.
Right.
So
Darwin's
you-
going to Dover. over.
You're gonna need to provide him with a real number of calls that aren't the mutual aid calls. That's gonna be the challenge.
Right. And you're gonna have to break that down.
Your
So
chief
it's-
should know that, though.
Yeah, you need to know how many, how many structure fires we have, how many car accidents we have, how many first responder type calls you have. And what would be really nice if he can provide like at least 3 years. 5 would be better. Then you could see that,
Trend.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
not seeing that. Yeah, we had-
Last year we had twice what we ever had before. Or
right.
whatever.
We never
Yeah.
have that many.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So you
Yeah,
could
I
kinda
see what
go
you're
with that
saying. I
route.
see what you're saying. Yeah.
I missed one. Number of calls that are mutual aid, car accidents, first responders. What was the one that you said right after?
The trend, like a 5-year.
No, right after
Oh.
mutual aid before car accident. You said
Structure fire,
structure.
an actual fire. I mean, that would be basically that's your big dollars. I mean, that's where you're gonna have the most equipment, the most manpower for the most amount of hours.
Right. That are not mutual aid. Structure fires that are not
Correct.
in
They're
another
hours.
town that they're
There were
ours.
hours.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we had one on the French's Mills River.
Because the way that would
Yeah.
work is when it's in your town, you're there start to finish.
Right.
Oh.
If it's a mutual aid, you might call a town in to help you, but once it's cleaned up and you're all set, these guys go back in that same town. They keep staying there to the end. So
Oh.
I would think Tommy would want to know that number because that would, these are no longer going to be mutual aid. I'm not helping you for 4 hours.
Right. I'm staying start to finish.
You know.
I gotta be there.
In the car accident, some of those he may hit on a mutual aid call, but I would think he would want to know because that would be your number 2. You're running a couple of trucks and a few more people.
Yeah.
But your first responders Guilford actually has a Jeep. They don't even take the trucks.
You would think the two communities are gonna be pretty close.
Yeah.
I mean, Guilford's not a lot. They don't have a lot more residents than we do they?
I think they're about the same.
No, I think
1,500.
but they've got to think they've got the senior living, so that's a substantial more first responder type calls.
Yeah.
They've got a lot more apartment-y type, you know what I mean? So
Plus, are you just talking about Guilford, or is it all the towns that they also service?
Well, I was
in
thinking just
Guilford,
Guilford.
okay,
Because our
okay.
populations are not that different. I
Okay.
was
Yeah, the
surprised.
population itself
Student-
isn't.
Students,
we were
I was
that-
very interested to see that.
Yeah.
That
I was surprised by that.
Yeah.
I hear sirens every day.
You hear
Yeah,
sirens
between
every day?
Mayo and
Do
Guilford
you guys
going.
have issues at the mill that require them to show up?
Occasionally, but I mean, a couple times a year, it's nothing.
Yeah.
But same way, I mean, our mill is no different than our town. It's an aging workforce.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
But once he's able to come and I think share with you his vision, then
That's what I would
we'll know
prefer.
better how to proceed.
I would prefer to start that way. I would rather just, sit back, listen.
Yeah.
What's he thinking? For you to find out what Abbott's paying, what's Parkman paying.
Yeah,
Right.
because that should be easy.
Yeah.
Because depending on how this develops, we may not need to take it to another step.
Yeah. Because I mean,
Right.
if you geographically, the center of our town is much closer to a Guilford than the Parkman of the Abbott. So I would kind of think that we should be paying
Less.
equal or less, just because of transportation costs. I mean,
Right.
but
It'd be interesting to know what Abbott's paying. Okay, that's cool. E, traffic and heavyweight ordinance.
Oh.
Turns out that our ordinance for heavy vehicles was never signed.
It's not signed. The copy that we have on the website. Let's see. You don't have them all, but it just looks like this, and it has the date on there, February 11th, 2014. I do have the board meeting minutes from February 11th where they did approve it, but they did not sign it. They actually approved 3 different ordinances. That one, the mailbox policy, and the parking ordinance right here. And I think when you review the this draft, traffic control and parking ordinance, I think all three of these may be in here. I'm pretty
Oh.
sure that the mailboxes
The mailbox, I just
and
see
the
that.
parking lot, I mean, obviously it's parking, this is chapter 1.
I just didn't see that heavyweight one, that's what I was looking for.
You were looking for the, yeah.
Is that in here? It's
I
not?
didn't notice it, but I'm not saying it's not.
Is it supposed to be in here?
I don't know if it was,
If
it's not
I would-
supposed to be, but
I
my
would like
thought
it
is
to
if we could put them all together and make it one unified policy, just to make it. And a traffic ordinance is something that the Board of Selectmen have the right to approve and put into effect without going to town meeting.
Oh.
It is the only kind of ordinance. That
Along with
I'm
the
aware
heavyweight
of.
ordinance.
Along with the heavyweight, yes,
Okay.
because that's considered traffic.
Okay.
So we're gonna review this and along with that one
Yeah.
and,
I think I attached these on an email.
Yeah.
Yep.
All
Yep.
three of
You
these
did.
Yep.
and
Yep.
this one
Okay.
and the minutes.
Okay.
So you do have
Good, good.
all of them, but here's a working copy to write on for you.
Okay. Wow.
Cause we've had, even with this one, that's why it's still in the draft, we've had some parking issues
yeah, it's back and forth.
it is, and that needs to be finalized.
I think the ATV thing was in here too,
It
correct?
is. It is.
Yep.
Yep. Sure is. It's chapter 9, ATV on public ways.
And honestly, I got a couple things on that, I would
Oh, that's right there.
recommend.
Chapter 12, restricting vehicle weight on posted
Oh,
way.
there you go.
Oh, so
Okay.
it was gonna,
Okay. There you go.
It was, that's how it was originally,
chapter 12? I have
Yeah.
mailboxes.
chapter 9, it's ATVs.
Oh,
Oh, these are,
they
there's
different?
adopted
depends.
January 14th. So this is adopted by month day.
Oh wait, this is all of it from when
16.
we started this.
So this
this is your work in progress?
This
Were you
is-
on this?
You was on this too.
But see, this one is actually
Yeah,
February
for a
11,
week.
2014.
Thanks.
January 15. So it's not even accurate
Oh
in
my
the draft.
goodness.
Yeah, this is like Scrooge.
Oh, so they have chapter 12 in there twice.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. Because yeah.
So page 3,
Yep.
backside, chapter 9. How's that? That is ATV.
Yes.
So if you count pages, go to 3
on the
on
back,
the
of
back.
It's chapter 9, ATV on public ways.
Correct.
And what were you saying, Dale, about that?
The two things, well, there's a few things there that I don't really like, and I don't know, kind of speaking both sides of this, but this says permitted on April 15th.
Until
But these are all
December 1st.
correct. But these are access points. Our number one access point is the railroad bed, and that railroad bed is closed after. It's the only time it's closed is after snowmobile season, and the state opens that back up to ATVs at their discretion. That entire time frame, it's wide open for you to walk it. You can ride a bike, you can ride a horse, you can do anything you want, but you cannot put an ATV on it. And the theory is April 15th, but that didn't happen last year, and it didn't happen this year.
It's still not even open, is it?
No, it just opened.
Just
I say somebody went by the house today, so
Yep.
I think it's open.
But that's what I'm saying, is I think somehow, instead of saying April 15th, it ought to verbiage,
That it's dependent
coincides
upon.
with the opening
Coincides,
of the,
yep.
Yep.
and it's the same way on the other end. I don't know.
They
I don't know where
typically
they got-
close it for hunting season, right?
Correct. And I
Again.
don't know if that's,
Coincides. Except for Sundays, you could allow Sunday because you're not going to hunt on Sunday
if you
until
want to do that. I mean, usually if you close, you close.
So
Most
they
other
close the
towns-
railroad bed to ATV traffic during hunting season?
No.
No.
So what happens during hunting
Most people's
season?
roads close. Most trails close. But the railroad bed doesn't. That stays
Oh,
open.
yeah,
Yeah,
it
no, the
doesn't.
leaf peepers and.
Correct.
That's a big time out there, actually.
Yeah.
But
Huh.
if you go on any other town that I've seen, they all close prior to hunting season.
Huh.
And most of their trails close prior to hunting season. Because what it ends up being is for landowners,
Right.
out of respect of landowners, majority of Maine people want to hunt
Sure.
So-
they don't want an ATV blasting through.
while you're out in your tree seat. So that's
Sure.
the thought process.
Yeah, and for the ATVers, as far as safety in the woods,
Same way.
same thing.
So
it goes
I don't know.
both
It
ways.
just, and I haven't discussed that at all with the club to get their opinion. But I would be nice. Last year we did close early. We closed right around hunting season. I never
Yeah,
heard a complaint.
Well, when we had that complaint, wasn't that the end of November? Because
I think it was in October, late October.
I was thinking, it was like, I think hunting season just started. And that's when, it was coincidental, but
Yeah.
I never heard anybody complain about that either.
yeah, because
Close
I
them.
remember I think you at that time you thought within 10 days they were going to close them anyway.
Because, yeah.
Right.
So
But
that's
there's a
one
lot of work
part.
to be done here.
Yes,
Yeah.
there is.
Yeah.
This also says has the dusted on thing in there.
Now, the planning board worked on this. We worked on this traffic ordinance, didn't we?
That's where it started.
Yeah. Obviously, it didn't get completed.
Well, if for some reason we don't have this with a bow on it, we're going to have to sign that other ordinance before the snow flies. Because we've got to have our heavyweight ordinance in place.
I would like to make sure this shouldn't be that.
Right.
I understand,
No.
but we can't leave that again.
So we want to workshop it, just to,
Probably
Dog it
should.
out.
Yeah.
I mean, because,
Yeah, and just knock it
Yeah,
off.
yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
And is there any
Page by
other
page.
pieces in here that we would want at our workshop for aiding? Meaning like the snow, is there anything to do with the snow removal, so you'd want your contractor in here, or is there anything?
The parking not to hinder snow removal on section 3, chapter 1, is that what you're
I don't
thinking?
think I don't think it should matter.
Well,
There's the parking end of it too, as far as which parking lots you're allowed to park and how long, and that was sticky.
Yep. It was subjective.
oh, and they're putting their culverts policy in here too.
I saw that.
See, and
Section
this right here
chapter
is
2, on a driveway permit.
yeah, they put that in there as well.
Oh.
So right on the very front page, this is I never noticed this before. This is different. Section 2, C. No vehicle to gross vehicle weight rating in excess of 15,000 pounds shall be parked on a period of longer than 1 hour in any street between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m.
Who's going to enforce that?
Well, that's the other side of this.
Well, that is the big question. Who's going to enforce this?
Nobody.
Right.
Once it becomes an ordinance, basically they can call and complain, and then it's up to you to police it, and then you would call the county sheriff. And they may directly go to the county sheriff, but I don't know how strictly they will enforce without having a, I don't know.
It's interesting because this kind of reminds me of the discussion around speed limits for ATVs, where
I was just thinking
the sheriff is saying, well, unless that's
Yeah.
a state statute. Is there a state statute on vehicles being parked for over an hour if it weighs over 15,000 pounds? I doubt it.
But is there a state statute for a barking dog that our animal control guys takes people to court and wins? So I'm still.
We haven't got an answer on that yet.
Well, we know that our animal control officer summons people for that and wins in court. That we do know.
I don't know if he's done it or not. He has.
That's what he told me he has. He said he's never lost a case and goes to court.
Yeah, but has he ever taken one to court?
Yeah, he has. That
so
was the clear.
We would have him.
Well, that's why I-
police
Oh,
this.
it's a constable.
The constable.
Yes.
But a constable cannot have more authority than a sheriff.
No.
My thought
Is that
process. So how do I have a sheriff
Well,
saying I
except-
can't enforce it?
Yeah.
And I can't summons it.
I
the
think
constable
can't maybe mean won't.
Can't.
Then that's fine. That's
Right.
the reason. But that's where it needs to go is when you ask that question. But we need to know that.
Right.
So when one of our local sheriffs that live in our town says we can't do that, then I can say
We
Yes,
have
you
an
can.
ordinance that says.
don't correct. So when we do get the complaints, because we've already heard that a resident has called the sheriff's office and said that they can't enforce it. Well, we need to be able to say
Yes, they
Yes,
have
they
to
can.
enforce it.
Yeah.
Well, or yes, they will. If they're not going to enforce it, we need to know that. Or we
county
need our
tax bill.
constable.
I mean,
I mean, Dexter has a police department. They could have no riding after dusk, and their police officers will pull them over. Now, whether it would prevail at Bangor at the courthouse, I don't know. When I talked to the sheriff, it sounded like it wouldn't. So,
We can try it.
I just, there has to be a place where we can get clarity on this.
That's what
If we have an ordinance, is it enforceable? That's the bottom line.
Right.
Because if it's not enforceable,
That's right, why have it?
I'd rather not have it.
Right,
I agree.
and this is pretty extensive.
well,
So,
the reason why this right here started
Yeah.
was when I was first on, Ken and I went to the DOT one-day training seminar on roads. And when we got out of that, we clearly learned that unless you have a traffic control ordinance that specifies your stop signs and your speeding limit signs and all of these signs, they are not enforceable. So that, and the guy from DOT clearly stated that their office gets phone calls all the time wanting to know, does this town, I got a ticket in this town, do they have an ordinance? Yes, they do. The second question that they always get asked is, the town just can't go put up a speed limit sign. That has to be done by DOT by a study. If DOT hasn't done a study to place that sign, that's all means the tickets get thrown out of court. So that's where this whole thing started from,
wow.
was to just get us in compliance so
Right.
that everything's enforceable.
Right, right.
So that's kind of,
Pete Coughlin.
I can't remember now, it was a couple of years ago. It was the DOT one day, it's a really good, that is a really good class. It covers
Signs and speed limits, signs, something in speed limits.
Huh.
the heavy road limits, all of that. He went over all of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting.
but there again, you have a law that
You're
says you're
talking
breaking the
yourself-
law, but if
right.
you don't have an ordinance, it's not enforceable by your sheriff's department. So
Right.
we're being,
Right.
in one token, we're being told two different.
Right. You're going round and round in circles.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's an onerous penalty, not less than $250, not more than $1,000.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
But does it have to go to court to be collected?
Yeah, prosecution shall be in the name of the municipality and shall be brought in the main district court.
Well, this really needs to go to somebody beside us signing it before this. How do you put that without it going somewhere?
I mean,
That sounds good.
I will check the MMA website first, because every time I just send them an email, they're like, well,
It's
on our website.
this
Yeah, but
seems
the only
a
thing
little-
is, they'll save you time by giving you that where the link is, to how to get there.
Yeah. I had a young man working for me, is a Dexter resident who had a brand spanking new car to him, loud as could be, left my place, came down to the middle of town here and got arrested because of, it was all tricked out and had to leave it, and it got towed and paid a huge fine. So that was a noise, that's a
state
Yeah.
inspection issue, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, okay,
If you get beyond a certain decibel, they
Okay.
can do it with bikes too.
okay.
It's really opinion, is
Yeah.
what it is.
So that's a state, that's a, okay, got it.
Well, I think this is more of a project than meets the eye, maybe it does meet the eye as a project.
Sounds like Sunday morning pizza workshop.
Oh, yeah, that's
I owe somebody a lot of pizzas, so we're gonna start hitting them sometime.
okay.
All right. Open session. Limit to 2 minutes. None.
Run it once.
Item 7, committee reports, road commissioner.
First, we have 5 spots in town that have fever that I've been notified. McNaughton Hill, Flanders Hill, Anderson Road, Knowlton Road, Mills, I was just informed this morning, and Burroughs Road. Butch called me this morning and he tells me that McNaughton Hill is taken care of. And I had to have a pulp truck come in and clean out the 2 culverts on Anderson Road, and the guy tells me that Flanders Hill is taken care of. And I've been working with Doug Kane from the Inland Fisheries in Greenville, and he gave me this guy's name in town. His name is Jeff Bartley. And I've called him, and he finally came into the office today, and he basically said, I'll get to it when I get to it, maybe this weekend. So that being said, my culverts on Anderson Road I'm concerned with. So Butch had given me a name of somebody else. I called and left a message, but I haven't heard back from him. So we're keeping an eye on the culverts, keep an eye on the beaver. Hopefully they'll disappear.
They don't disappear unless somebody helps them disappear, but they never quit.
Yeah. Or they grow up and just move on. So that's one. Phil stopped in today and he took a ride. I had asked him, Dale had called me last week and asked me about shimming in the ruts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
and then doing a shim. And so I called Jeff Mullis from Pike, and he said they call it a 1/4 point shim. And they do the rut, and then they do the full shim over the top of it. And he said that is possible. I called Phil just to see if that is a possibility that we could use to maybe get Silver's Mills done. He went out today before he answered my question, and he actually measured out the depth of the ruts. And he said he measured 4 to 4.5 inches maximum on his ruts, right there by Dan Halls. He started at box 550 and went a mile from that point. His suggestion if your rut is 4 to 4.5, he says you can reclaim that. So he would suggest a reclaim, and then he said tailgate 6 inches of gravel, clean gravel, and then reclaim it again, and you can have it graded, and then you can leave that. Because I asked Jeff last week when we met with him, and he said, yeah, once it's reclaimed and compacted, you can leave it for a year. And he actually made it sound like it seemed like a good idea to leave it for a year.
Desirable that it
Yeah.
gets more and more packed.
Yeah.
That's right.
He did also measure the width of the road from shoulder to shoulder. He said we have 28 feet. He said the driving width is 20 feet, and so we should have enough. We won't be filling in our ditches with gravel if we
6 inches.
bring up a 6-inch.
I'd like to know where he measured that, because we've got places up there you don't have 6 inches on each side of the hot top. So if you've got 20 feet of hot top, I don't know if there's any place where you've got 4 feet of.
2 on
Well,
each
he
side.
just looked at 2 on each side.
But I agree with you.
Right,
there's
but I mean,
some
he's
that
saying
don't
it's
Some of
have
it
28.
is.
You don't have, that's 4
Well, I
feet on
think
each
he
side.
only
and-
stayed in that 1 mile area that we were. I mean, I know further up there is some other spots. He did not go as far as. He stopped when the telephone pole stopped.
I was gonna go up and measure, and I've been getting stuff done at the house and haven't been able to. But
But the depth of the rut, I think, is good to know that he's measured that. So he's willing to put together a plan for us, and I can calculate fees. We can calculate pavement and figure that.
Yep.
Because the only area that you'd have to tailgate and do twice are these really bad areas.
Correct.
So
Correct.
there might be,
It's
maybe
about-
at Kazmarax beyond, that would have to be done that same way. I don't know if those ruts are pretty close, aren't they? Mm-hmm. But they're not, it's not a mile. It's like, it's probably,
I think he said 3/4 of a mile, maybe.
I bet by the time you did all the way up by Dan Halls, and you did down by from Kazmazak's down to the
all
Oh,
the,
the
brook,
brook.
I bet that'd be. I mean, I ain't measured it, but it's
I have a wheel we can measure.
probably pretty close
Feet.
to a mile down through there. I don't know. I'd like to go out and I'll do some measuring this weekend. I just don't really. I don't see how we got 28 feet of road surface up there.
but if we're only gonna add 6 inches of gravel, does it matter, I guess?
Sure. If you've got places you don't have 6 inches on each side of the road. So
Well, but
if
they
you-
might not be places that we're
There
gonna
may
be.
be flat spots where we're
Oh,
not
but it's
adding
part of
any
the-
material.
But that's what I'm saying. You get out by all the brook. There's places you're right now almost to the hot top again. You don't have a lot of space there. All right.
But I mean, if we raise the road with 3 inches of pavement, or we reclaim, and we're still stuck with the road that we have,
Correct.
and it may not have much of a shoulder in places. But I don't know what else we can do about it.
Well, you shim it, leave it alone, and shim it, or
But yeah, but I
That's a
guess
choice.
we're raising the road either way. and it doesn't sound like straight shimming is really a good option with this 4-inch rut.
He said over 3 inches it will not compact as much as you want it to compact.
But that's what Jeff's saying, that you can do the short shim up through there, and you could do it once and then come back, shim it twice.
But
you
again,
can-
it's still gonna be more than I can't see how a
That-
compactor will fit in there.
Because they don't use the big road compactor. That's why I was telling you when I asked you
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
They shim that small section. Mm-hmm. They do that
But
once.
they use their regular shimmer. He said they use their regular machine and they just
They don't
cut
roll
it
it
down.
with a regular.
Yeah, he didn't say anything about the rolling
And that's
part
the
of
compaction part.
it. Yeah.
Well, it'd be interesting to see Pike's reaction to the two strategies. When you're gonna get an outline from Phil. Be interested to see what Pike says about those
Which is
two
more desirable.
approaches. I'm sure neither one's optimal, but
Right.
and then we can, if Pike says it's kind of a coin toss, then we just base it on
That's
cost.
dollars and cents, yeah.
Yeah.
But when the culverts you was out there, how far down did you have rocks in the center?
In color?
Yeah, when we dug out the culverts and you had all those rocks.
We
How
had
far
how much
below?
ever was in the pavement.
Yeah, how much below the pavement was you seeing
It's
rocks?
probably 6 inches maximum. Maximum
Okay, so he's
in the center.
okay.
But another thing that he said too, when you're doing reclaiming, you're reclaiming in 3 sections. A good reclaim job should be done in 3 sections. If you haven't had 3 sections, then you have not had a good reclaim job.
I've never seen it in 3
I
sections.
said we didn't do the French's Mills Road that way.
No, it's never been done that way.
Well, it's the way it's supposed
Maybe
to
it's
be
because
done.
we got those rocks in the middle.
I'm saying that we've had multiple people reclaim, and there's never been a reclaimer in our town done in 3 sections.
No, they're supposed to reclaim
I've never seen the state do it in
that
3
lane,
sections.
the middle, and then the other lane.
They did Guilford the other day. They didn't do it in 3
They
sections
didn't do it in 3 sections.
when they ground that hot top up.
Maybe they didn't write their RFP.
Well, but we also know that
But anyway, back to what Phil's saying. If you have ruts at 4 inches and you hit rocks at 6, you can't reclaim that ground.
that's what Pike said.
Well, that's when he thought the ruts were 8.
No,
'Cause we were telling him they were
But we
8.
still had a problem with the rock in the middle.
correct. You
Yes,
have
we
rocks
do.
within 6 inches. Okay, you have ruts at 4 plus 3 inches of hot top, so you have to reclaim 7. We can't reclaim 7 because we have rocks at 6. So you can't reclaim the road. From what they're telling us.
If we have rocks at 6,
If we have
you
rocks
can't
at 6.
reclaim the road based on what Pike said to us.
Correct.
Didn't Pike say we could tailgate as he's reclaiming?
Yeah, but you're not
2 inches though. No more than 2.
correct, but when you're reclaiming, you still have to go to the depth to grind all that hot top. That's the point, is to take not having any chunks. Because if we're going to reclaim and we can't get all the hot top ground up, we might just well do it the other way and set it with an excavator and bust it up. Or you don't need to do it, one or the other.
There is a section on the Silver's Mills when we were doing the culverts. You can see where they have attempted to reclaim because it's all that black ground up pavement and it's just looks like black sand. And so it wasn't mixed with anything underneath because of the rocks.
Rocks.
And that's the last layer that you see before the rocks.
Ah.
So it's not that deep under either.
So, I mean, you may be able to reclaim some pieces, but you're not going to get very far, and in all likelihood, you're going to get stopped.
Correct. I'm just thinking, like they said, when you reclaim, so let's just say you can reclaim 7. They said after you get reclaimed, it's actually thicker. So your
it's
7
fluffy.
fluffs
Yeah.
it, so 7 turns into say 8, maybe 9. Then you add 6 for gravel. Every time we're up to 7 inches on top, which means we need to be a little bit wider.
All the way
It
back
keeps-
to your.
Correct. It keeps getting into width. So
Well, you're gonna do some measurements.
I'm just for curiosity. I'm gonna.
So, let's find out about compaction of that quarter shim.
Now, can they rely on or consider? Let's say you fill those ruts, and then trucks and cars driving over those ruts to compact, or is that just not enough to compact? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I
think they
understand
are-
how a compactor wouldn't work because you're bridging
Right.
the rut. I understand that. But
So you're saying like quarter shim it, leave it for 6 months,
and
then
let
shim
drive
over
on it, drive on it. I mean, I just don't know. If there's enough traffic to compact it, I don't know.
We're using that theory on the dirt. I mean,
You know, I just don't know. I have to go out and look at it because I have not seen it. So I do need to do that.
Okay. Well, it's gonna get pretty simple, cause there aren't many options left.
It looks that way.
Anything further on the roads?
No.
Any selectmen concerns? Item 8.
Oh, just one thing. I'm not a concern, but I just want to thank everyone for meeting tonight so that I could be here. And I appreciate all our other guests that were here to facilitate that.
You all set? Is there any correspondence?
I think I forwarded to you your first resume and application.
Yes, I didn't read it, but I did get it.
Oh, I didn't see that. Okay, good, good, good.
And it should be coming out. I put the advertisement out. Should be coming out in this week's papers. So hopefully we'll be
Okay.
getting some in there.
Good.
Anything else? No? Item 10. Request for additional agenda items.
I have just an FYI. This is a certificate of association for purpose of engaging in mercantile enterprise and sole proprietor, adopting other than his own name. I have had a couple of questions come in from people that are DBAs, and you know, what are they supposed to do to have their own home business in town? Well, here is state law, Title 31, Sections 1 and 2, that state that they're supposed to register with the clerk in the town office. And then in Title 30A, Sections 1, F, G, and H is where the fees that we're allowed to charge for that. So it's a $10 fee to do these. It's never been pursued in town, but state law says you should do it. It's a benefit to the person doing the DBA because if they have a bank that needs to have proof that they're a legitimate business, or if they're trying to have, to get contracts or whatever as a legitimate person, it's to their benefit. But I know it's not been pursued in town.
Well, number-wise, how many do you think we have in town?
DBAs?
Yeah.
I haven't gotten that far. This was
Okay.
discussion today. I had a call this morning from somebody, so
Somebody looking into DBA.
she wanted to know what it took to
Ah,
run her own business out of home. She wants to run a payroll
oh,
processing.
okay.
So this would be an ordinance?
It's not an ordinance, it's state law.
Oh. We've just never done it.
Just never done it.
It's a state requirement, and we've never done it.
Correct.
Did you do this in Bradford?
Yes, I did.
Oh,
so how
okay.
do you get, if it's a state law, how would you get a sales tax number for a business if you didn't do that?
Good question.
That's my question.
If it's a state,
Well,
Well, they're not
No.
necessarily connected.
Well, that's what, but wouldn't they be?
no, I mean, because you can get that's just filing with the state. This is with the town, right?
Right, but that's my question is why is it a state law that you have to file it with the town? I don't understand the connection.
But the town needs to know.
it's just here, filing of certificate. That's for partnership, and that's for sole proprietor. The whole Title 31 is all on businesses, partnerships, and sole proprietors, and corporations and stuff.
And this is only in your residence? I mean, if somebody
No,
opens...
it can be, I mean, anybody that's, if they don't run as a corporation, incorporated, or an LLC, they need to, if they're a sole proprietor or business DBA, or a partnership, but not incorporated, and they're supposed to record their certificate with the town.
Huh, that's interesting. Huh,
So
okay. So, and then when they supply that certificate to the town, then our town has certain fees.
it's a $10 fee because it's state statute that says right here, certificate of partnership, $10. We can't charge more or less. Certificate withdrawal of a partner, $10, and certificate for the sole proprietor is $10.
And where does that money go?
Town.
To the town? Huh. Okay,
Just miscellaneous.
right. You want to be business friendly.
I mean, we haven't done it. I mean, I don't have to do anything with it, but
Right, right. Well, so do we have to decide whether we want to go ahead and begin to implement the fees?
Yeah, in other words, are you looking for the board to give you a green light on this?
no.
No?
Okay.
Unless you want to specifically. I mean, that's fine.
Right.
I mean, what's your thought on it?
Well, if I'm understanding you correctly, it's something we're supposed to be doing.
Correct.
Then I think we should do it.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's $10.
Yep.
And if you're not in that category, then you're doing really another way. I'm thinking offices that may end up in Abbey Fowler if this thing goes. Most of those are not going to be sole proprietorships, so they wouldn't.
Correct.
This is kind of a unique little niche.
Yeah.
I'm just
And-
confused to why not all the towns are doing it. You have to do it.
Because they don't know about it. If their clerks don't go to the training, then
Right.
Kind of like the ordinance on the
Yeah,
stop
the-
signs, and
Yeah.
these towns don't know that.
They just, yeah.
And-
Things fall through the cracks.
there are so many statutes out there. I mean, I could go to a different clerk's class and this topic not come up. It just depends on how the topic and discussion evolve in a class.
Right, and this is self-reporting. I mean, you have to have somebody
Correct.
call and say, geez, yes,
Right.
it is a self-reporting thing.
Yeah.
Right? So,
Yep.
But this kind of reminds me a little bit of the. 'Cause we're about to interview for the assessor, and we probably should revisit our permitting policy. And
That being said, I did speak with George when he was in last week. And I told him we have a problem with the assessor not being notified of buildings going in. And the people that I'd shown you pictures of that had homes on there, he says, oh, they have permits. Well, my assessor doesn't know that. He says, oh, you want them to know? And I'm like, yes. So he says, okay, I can do that. So he'll just make copies. And
okay.
so, I mean, you can make it a policy, you can make it an ordinance. I mean, we can pursue the building notice ordinance that I think I forwarded you all that as well. So it's just a matter of
Yeah, we just,
who gets notified.
that's
That's the problem.
yeah, that's an important,
That's the point of doing for our code enforcement officer to say that he has not been supplying them. That's an issue.
He said he's never been asked to supply them.
I don't believe that.
yeah, it doesn't make sense.
That's the point of that's the point of it.
That's right. That's how
yeah,
you.
we don't even have a filing fee. We're not making any.
Right.
The only reason you're turning this in is so that it can be relayed to.
So there's a
I
trail.
wish you would have thought of this while Jerry was here because I really would have liked to
yeah.
see his reaction with that statement.
I can call him.
Yeah, and just run it by him and say, is that what the way he understands it?
Right.
Yeah, I wonder if he'll be surprised.
Yeah, that
Because
will.
really, what you're telling me is the perfect world. Your code enforcement and your assessor agent would be the same guy.
In some towns it is.
But I'm just saying because then you would never have this disconnect.
Correct. And I mean, you should always have a copy. When I was in other towns, we had actually a multi-copy. And so the code
like a
got a
triplicate.
copy. The
Yeah.
office kept a copy.
Yes.
And
Yes.
That makes
the
sense.
assessor had a
Yes.
copy. So it was a triple. It wasn't just some form that I could print off the internet and take over and fill out. They actually have to come to the office.
That makes sense.
And that's why the building permit in Garland is not triplicate. It's just a single like what we have, but it's a $2 fee. So you have to go to the office to get it. They make copies, give you the original, and then they pass it to the assessor.
See, and this is why I'm very anti-ordinance, and I'm very anti things like this, because we cannot handle what little bit we already have.
Right.
We already have such a huge disconnect in all of this. It's hard for me to justify adding more to it until we can get what we have under control.
But a building permit ordinance may be a form of control.
I don't think that's the issue. I think we have
But it
other
might
issues
help
that
the issue.
I would rather fix the problem than create a different solution.
Well, you've got two different problems. There's no compelling reason right now to get a building permit,
Correct.
regardless of its enforcement. There's no compelling reason to do it. So that we can address. Now we may have other issues. Did you? I had heard that that our code enforcement officer may have some reluctance with our nuisance ordinance and enforcement of trash and that sort of thing. Did you talk to him about that at all?
We talked about it. He just doesn't feel that the nuisance ordinance, doesn't have any. He said he did not support the ordinance. If he'd have been here for town meeting, and he would have said he did not support.
But
the
I
ordinance.
remember, I don't know if do you remember in those meetings, he talked about enforcing that ordinance and taking pictures.
He was
And,
actually at Selectmen's meeting about enforcing that.
I'm pretty sure he said to me
I'm
that
not-
he did not.
Not saying that he didn't.
but he was sharing with us how
Take a picture.
take a
spoke to
picture,
them
it gets cleaned up, and
first.
if they don't, it gets expensive.
Right.
So it
Well,
sounds
I
like it's,
think just under state law you can do that.
But now I caught you saying something that big that just reiterated another point. He didn't support this ordinance, but he wasn't here.
Yeah.
We need to have a
Yeah.
code enforcement officer that's gonna be here for when we have our town meetings. This ordinance went through planning board for a very long time, and he was part of that. So I don't like the fact that our planning board spent a lot of time on an ordinance, and now our code enforcement, well, I weren't here and I didn't support it.
what I'd like to do is talk to him and find out what the holes are in it. I mean, if he thinks it's a flawed ordinance, that's great. We should know about it. I wish they'd
Right
he'd
before we
share that with
adopted
Jerry
it.
when they were
Sure.
working on it. But I'm a little surprised because he was pretty.
Yeah,
He was a part
gung
of
ho.
all
He was gung-ho.
Gung ho. Yeah.
When I was on the planning
Yeah,
board,
he
We
was.
can go back through some minutes, and there was residents that he was working with at
Right.
meetings and explaining where it was at and what was
Right.
going on.
And he
and-
was on letter
now
2.
it's entirely impossible. It's entirely possible that his real life experience with this ordinance has
Hasn't-
changed his view. But we should
Yeah.
talk to him
We should meet with him. Right?
because
We
there's a
should
few
be
things
touching
falling through the
base.
cracks here.
We should be touching base with him. And
And maybe
Jerry.
Jerry, that
I think
his-
Jerry'd be a part of.
Yes,
be a part of
yes.
that.
Yeah, and the place maybe to start with this permitting. See what his, are we
Yep.
gonna put some teeth in the permitting process or
Right.
not? Enforcement aside,
Right.
to me, we should. Otherwise, it's just there's no compelling reason to get a permit.
There's a big building that has gone up on a piece of property that's connected to mine that we didn't end up buying. And anyway, if you drive past my road, Thomas Road, keep going and then look up. There's a big building that the people that bought the land put up. I have no idea. I did put a call in to Blaine to see whether they had put in a. I think it's a camp, but it's 2-story. It's good size. You should see it. After you go through the bog there and then drive along and look over to the left. So, I want to know if that's got a permit. And I did call Blaine.
And kind of off topic, but how many years of permits that we did get have we
That-
not been submitting?
Right.
Correct.
Right.
That's a whole different topic, but
Right.
it
This
would
is why
explain
I
a lot,
really-
wouldn't it?
When we was talking about all this, I don't know if it's possible in our area or not, but code
Right.
enforcement and tax assessing, if that could move to one individual, I think that's the best one for that. Because you would have that double visibility when they're out doing things. I understand the permit and it's a way of doing that, but at the same time,
Is code enforcement our responsibility? do we appoint a code enforcement
No, I
officer?
do.
You do, okay.
And if somebody said, I'd like to be the code enforcement, then does it become you decide who wants to do it? Is there, you know what I'm saying? Is there they have a term, they must have a term.
Yeah, but I can't, yes, they do.
But they're an
It's like
employee.
Yeah, I think so, but I'm not gonna say 100% because it's considered a stipend. Because he only gets paid, he doesn't get paid weekly.
Right, but he answers to you.
He does,
Correct. Okay.
Right,
yes.
because there is somebody else that has expressed interest in code enforcement.
But I'm back to the, maybe having him in here for a meeting to discuss with us would only be on the topics of, it's not gonna be anything to do with his performance, not that I have any issue with it necessarily. That's
Right,
not our
that's my
jurisdiction.
job.
That's your job.
Yeah,
No, I vent my concerns to her, and that's up to her
Sure,
to decide
sure,
where she's gonna go
sure.
with that.
yep,
Yep.
okay. That surprises me on the nuisance thing.
It's a complete
Yeah, it's
360.
It is.
Yeah, well, yeah, 180, cause getting back to the
Whatever.
360.
It's actually, it's multiple 360s, because
Yeah,
it
he's got a
just keeps
little
spinning.
whirling dervish
420.
there. No, he did seem really enthusiastic, did he?
Absolutely.
It's like, wow, I'm glad I
Yeah,
don't
like
have
he
a
was
mess
really
like
doing his job. Reporting all the blow by blow accounts. So,
Well, he does agree there's a lot of trash and it needs to have something, but I don't think that this particular wording of this ordinance is the one that's doing the job.
shit.
Well,
Okay.
we need to start having a conversation
Yep,
for
yep.
next.
I
Meeting.
can tell you, I had a one-on-one with Jerry a
Peter.
week or so ago and explained the concerns about all of this. And I was of the, I think Jerry thinks the same way we did, that he believed he was gonna talk to code enforcement as well, because he really thought that this was written in a way and it was enforceable and there was no
Yeah.
issues with this. And that this, because of what we was talking about, how we had the trash ordinance on here. And what I told Jerry was that I'm not really one to add another ordinance. I want to make
Right,
sure the one that we
right,
got is
is
worded in a way that
enforceable.
does the same thing. So yeah, he says he was very confident he did. Working with our code enforcement officer when they wrote that. So I'm confused.
No, and with any area of enforcement, if he's got a problem, or he or she has a problem with the way our ordinance is written, or there's a flaw of some, it would seem like they should be coming to you or us, saying, we gotta fix this, and here's
Right,
why I
it's not
think we need to address it.
enforceable. Right.
Because if they don't, who's going to?
Right.
Well, I think at that point, I mean, he should notify you, but it should be instantly. He should be in here to us.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Say, I got
Because at the
concern.
ordinance level, that's back to
Right.
So we're the ones that can fix it,
Right.
or at least get the wheels turning.
Right.
Something.
Start to.
But you can't just say, this doesn't work, and so I'm just not
So I'm
gonna
not
do
going to
anything.
enforce it. So then we have another ordinance on the books that's not enforced. You know,
Right.
that's
Yeah.
just
Okay.
that's
The
when it
ongoing-
becomes
The nuisance
there's
ordinance
more
becomes a nuisance.
useless.
Paperwork.
Yeah, useless. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there again, a lot of the trash issues. Did you find anything as far as the health and safety aspect of that? If we can get the trash end of these ones cleaned up without the nuisance, or do
We
you need
have
the
to-
nuisance?
No, I think you can, but you have to go through court, and it's expensive
Okay.
if you do it through.
All right. So how can you see what we can do to expedite? Because I can tell you, I know where there's a lot of trash piles that are growing.
Oh.
Give me a list, and I will contact him, and we will go together. As the local health officer, he and I together
Perfect.
have that.
Right, but I want the nuisance expedited so that
Oh,
you
okay,
don't.
expedited.
I mean, that's why we had code enforcement. We need to get this ordinance fixed, whatever way, how. I mean,
Do you want him to come in on your next meeting, which is June 6th? Your regularly scheduled meeting is June 6th.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yes.
Or
Right?
you can vet it. I mean, if you talk to him and feel like that he can contribute, by all means.
Okay.
but I mean, the list of people that are pointing out trash and homes and different homes that need to be cleaned up is growing.
It's pretty obvious when you
It's-
just drive around.
yeah.
I mean, we got a pretty
Oh, I
big
know.
problem that I think we need to somehow get under control. Or
If
get-
our ordinance is legitimate, there's plenty of work to be done. So, but and I don't. it requires a complaint, is that fair to say? In other words,
Well, if I don't get the complaint, I
Right.
don't know.
no, but does
what to
he,
do.
if you're the code enforcement officer, can you drive around and say, wow, that's just totally
Yes.
unacceptable?
Yes, he can.
Yes, he can.
And that's really, ideally, that's what you'd have happening.
Yep.
What he needs
He
to be
can,
doing.
you can, I mean, we can all institute that, it's,
Right.
doesn't matter who.
No, the more eyes, the better. But we don't have to wait for a citizen's complaint.
Nope.
Okay.
No, trash is.
He should be proactive. Okay. Anything else on that? Any executive session tonight?
No.
No?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? We are adjourned.